welcome to my OCR A-level biology revision session with me, Christine. So in today's lesson, I want to look at surface area to volume ratio. So the first thing I want to talk about is single-celled organisms. Now, we know that single-celled organisms are small, and we know that they therefore have a metabolic rate which is relatively low. Now, remember, your metabolic rate is the sum of all the chemical reactions that happen within the cell. So if we were to look at a cell, and we tend to use a sphere as a representation of a cell, we need to understand how to calculate the surface area and how to calculate the volume. Now, you will be expected to memorize these equations, so do make sure you know how to use them. So with the surface area of a sphere, it is 4 times pi times the radius squared. When we look at the volume, it's 4/3 pi r cubed. So if I have a cell which is measuring 1 arbitrary unit in its radius, and I have another cell which is measuring 6 arbitrary units in its radius, if I substitute those numbers into my equations, I can work out my surface area to volume ratio. So my surface area to volume ratio therefore is 3:1 for my small sphere, or 0.5:1 with my larger sphere. So my small cell compared to my larger cell. Now, when I look at that large surface area to volume ratio in that smaller cell, that therefore allows for the sufficient diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide to meet the needs of the organism. So the organism needs to do respiration, and because it needs to do respiration, it needs oxygen supplied, and it also needs the removal of carbon dioxide. Otherwise, the cell cannot function in the way that it needs to, because with respiration produces ATP. ATP is necessary for so many different things within the cell. So it's important that we note that the surface area to volume ratio needs to be large enough so that the cell can still sufficiently meet its metabolic demands. So as a cell grows, then the ability to exchange these substances actually becomes much more difficult. That decreases the larger the cell gets. So if we take then a rhinoceros, and I'm going to use this example of its surface area to volume ratio calculations, and we've got a meerkat, a very small organism. If these were just cells alone on their own, we need to look at that surface area to volume ratio. So we use the equation, the surface area divided by the volume will give us our ratio. We always want to get our volume to 1, so therefore we always need to divide our surface area by whatever the volume is. So in this case, with the rhino, my surface area is 92 centimeters squared, and my volume is 72 centimeters cubed. Therefore, my surface area to volume ratio is 1.28 to 1. If I look at the meerkat then, and I've represented that with a cube, that is a 6:1. So therefore, my surface area to volume ratio is greater the smaller the organism. Well, that doesn't seem to make sense, because obviously as the organism grows, it needs to be able to exchange the substances necessary to meet the metabolic demands. So how did it evolve? How is it that we sit here as multicellular organisms? Because actually, as a multicellular organism, an organism made up of many cells, our surface area to volume ratio is still relatively low. Well, this is why there was the evolution of the need for our exchange surfaces. It was also why there was a need for a transport system to evolve. So animals and plants are both multicellular organisms, and because we're multicellular organisms, it therefore means that our surface area to volume ratio has decreased. And because of that, what therefore needs to happen is an exchange surface to allow for the exchange of substances and a transport system. And that's what you're going to learn about when you look at the transport in animals topic area and the transport in plants. So do please check out my videos covering all the different areas within the transport system in animals and plants. So if you like this video, then please do click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you haven't done so already, please do check out my revision platform, www.aiqchat.com.